What were some things that you did to help build our socialization as your kids?
That's a great question. It is the number one question that people ask. As I said in a previous video, I only had one person in the history so far, now I'm not done homeschooling, but so far that ever asked about their academics. And that was a tutor we were going to hire, and she asked that question, but no one else has ever asked that question. And so it's always the socialization question. So if you have a lot of children, generally there's a lot of social things going on, and we have 9 of them. So there's always a social situation going on then within that group. On top of that, you've got neighbors, neighborhood, playing with the kids in the neighborhood. You've got church activities and circumstances, classes there. You've got extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents. All of those things play into kids' socialization skills. How comfortable are you in socializing with different ages, different, boys, girls, all of that comes into play there. We did try to do, because you liked them, we tried to do some of the clubs that existed when you were little, of course. And then as you went into your youth years, hopefully you can talk to us about some of those. As you can never guess what's being learned or not learned in those kinds of settings. If a kid is excited about it, for example, we right now with the 9-year-old and the 6-year-old, they're both boys, right? But they're excited about swimming lessons, right? We've done a science club with them, right? Which we didn't have connections to when you guys were, littler, younger. And they are excited about doing a ballroom dance class. Now that is mostly because you have done some ballroom dancing with them, right?
Yeah.
And they've gotten a kick out of that, right? And we've gone to some different things that you went to when you were little, where we did some ballroom dancing, right? So it's fun to see that full circle, come around, because you've done it just playing in the living room with them, on a Sunday evening or whatever, and they are interested in it enough to try it and see how they like it, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, some, country dancing that you've done as well with them. That's not as easy to find for 6 and 9-year-olds.
True.
But anyway, there's those types of things we did. Again, like when you were older, a statesmanship club where you studied parliamentary procedure and did a mock trial and things like that. With that group of families, we also did like a family formal ball once a year, hence the ballroom dance kind of thing that we got in there, and dress up formal, and it was fun, right? Did all of the boys like that? Not as much, no. But one in particular that just didn't like the white shirt and the tie and maybe the cummerbund or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was willing to come along and do it, right? So why don't you say a few things about those groups? I'm curious about what benefits you saw or what things you didn't like too.
Yeah, I feel like there are going to be some really contrasting opinions that I'm going to share, as opposed to my brother, just younger than I. So definitely this will be good, because viewers will be able to see the difference between episodes where he's spoken to this question and this moment. Yeah, for me, it was one of those things that I really loved, the experience of learning a new thing with a group of people. I like to excel at things. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun, even though I remember being stressed by it too, kind of like, the parliamentary procedure test, which I took and passed, and the speech, where we were trained by Toastmasters, and then we went and gave a speech, and I really enjoyed that. and felt really good when, I do well at it amidst my peers. That was something I found a lot of, joy doing. But yes, there were definitely groups that I liked more than others. So, for example, I really loved how you would not just pigeonhole it to homeschool groups either. You and Dad were really good at making sure that you were noticing what my interests were from an early age and helping me nurture those interests in ways that now that I look back on it, I feel like, oh yeah, wow, I was developing social skills while developing an interest, right? So, for example, the art lessons, I really loved art and drawing in particular, and so I remember doing a couple rounds of art lessons with a bunch of other kids, and then I think of course, the horseback riding was a big thing for me. I love horses, like Jeffrey loves sprinklers. Horses are and were my passion, and so there were opportunities to socialize with people there. When I got a little bit older and started going to, other like church sponsored activities, those were, a way for me to interact with other people. I admit I enjoyed some of the other activities that we did with like my siblings and other homeschool families the best, probably. But there were still a lot of different ways that we were able to like get out and be with other kids. Then for me, the other thing that you alluded to in this answer currently and then in previous episodes, there were definitely times that you and Dad would invite people over to our house that I really loved. Like, just I remember being so excited to, welcome company to the house to visit us, and I liked also going out to either visit other people in their homes and play with their kids, or going to dinner at restaurants. Part of developing social skills is not just developing one-to-one or in a group social skills, but in public, surrounded by strangers, social skills, right? Where you're not surrounded by friends, you may not even know anybody, but there are still things that are helpful, skills that are helpful to develop as you go through that. So
right.
Yeah, I remember I was definitely a lot more into those kinds of the group experiences. Particularly Jeffrey and I both loved going out and being, going to dinner at nice places or other people's homes. But when it came to a big group, I was definitely the one that was excited to go out and participate more.
Sure. Yeah, and that's good. It's interesting too. I mean, if we were to fast forward a little bit to the middle and younger kids, because of your exposure and Jeffrey's exposure to people, because you lived some period of years in Brazil, then we've had people from Brazil come and visit. We've had people, because my husband lived in Honduras for some years. I lived in Hawaii for some years.
Yeah.
So we have had people from different countries speaking different languages that we can understand sitting at the dinner table, right? And that's a really good thing for everyone to experience how that feels. Usually it spurs the younger kids. I remember the fifth child being really excited to study Portuguese because he sat there and listened to you and Jeffrey speak Portuguese to, the guest that was there. And he had gotten excited about it before, but it just added fuel to that, right? And the youngest two, same thing. We had someone stay here with us for multiple months, 2 or 3 times from Honduras, who didn't speak English. Therefore, we have to hurry up and brush up on Spanish. And they loved it. She loved them practicing English with her much more than she liked doing it with me. and because they're kids and they liked practicing Spanish with her as well. So that's been a really nice thing because of your international experiences, right? Another one in Brazil, another one in Fiji. One of our kids was there for a few years. He just returned, so we have not had as many Fijians, although he told me just today someone moved here, so we can do that now and invite them. Someone else spending a lot of time with musicians and therefore having, great musicians spend time and, play music in our home. And it just gives you that well-rounded experience of interacting with people from different places and different things they love. And it's super helpful.
On the note of different cultures, I do think that the other thing that I really love looking back on my socialization as a child, thanks to you, was the exposure we had to not just groups of kids that were our same age, but people who were, from different cultural backgrounds, different age demographics. I recall spending a lot of time. In fact, it's still true of me that most of my really dear friends are significantly older than me, like grandparent age. And I just connected so well with those people. I loved hearing stories. I still do, of their lives. I just see them as, founts of wisdom. And also I love how I feel when I'm with them because they are so, they're just good at helping you really feel like your true self.
Yes.
Right. And really work through, if you're having an insecure moment or whatever, because of their experience, they're able to really help you through that. And I think that's really nice as a kid to learn how to do as well. Again, it's another aspect of social skill development.
Yes.
Right. I feel like that's the one thing that is so important is to understand that, like, it's not just about how well you carry on a conversation with your buddy. There's so much more to what social skills are when you break it down.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's interesting to your point about the grandparents. There is something that kids feel, because we have a big age range with the kids. Thomas, the youngest, is 6. And this week, just day before yesterday, he was having just one of those days, crying often and, just having trouble throughout the day. Honestly, I was kind of like, oh, dear, again. There are a few reasons why, but when I just, kind of 2/3 of the way through the day, I just sat down and pulled him, in and gave him a hug. And I said, you're having a hard day today, it seems, can you tell me about what you're feeling? And he just broke down and he said, I don't have any grandmas or grandpas on earth anymore. And we know that, his last grandparent, my dad, passed away in June. He knew Grandpa well. Grandpa was here a lot, even though he had his own house. But the last, year of his life, have spent a lot of time with him. And Thomas said, I go to his house, but he's not there. I don't have any grandmas or grandpas left. And, we just, hugged for a minute. And I said, yeah, that is sad. They seem to sense that grandparents come from a completely different place than parents do. And they yearn for that, right? And because the 4 youngest kiddos in our family were adopted through the foster care system, it gives us a chance to, they're familiar with adoption, right? And so we can say, because we talk openly about it, yes, you don't have biological grandparents here on Earth, but I wonder if we could find someone you could adopt, right? And so we thought of a couple of people, and he was just, oh, do you think they'd do that? Do you think they'd be my grandparent? And I was like, well, let's call them up and find out, So we did. And absolutely, they're going to say yes, right? You're not going to find someone that you ask that question to and they're going to say no. But that's the kind of thing, they sense that on a really deep level that really matters. Less than, yeah, it's great that they regularly shell out the treats or the gum or make you your favorite food or whatever. That speaks to kids, but there's another deeper element, especially to matters of the heart, right? That really resonates with kids like that. So that they, when they're little and they remember it all the way till, for your whole life. I remember my grandparents, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's something that's really magical about that.